Hello and welcome to Grid Alternatives Corporate Volunteer Orientation. My name is Jake Bobrow and I'm the Development Officer with Grid Alternatives Colorado. First off, thank you all for signing up to volunteer and to help deliver what I believe is an innovative and cost-effective solution for helping hardworking, low-income families break out of an intergenerational cycle of poverty. Our work could not be done without the generous support from volunteers like you who donate their time to help us install solar electric systems, which provide needed financial savings, environmental impacts, and job training benefits to underserved communities. This orientation will take just under 15 minutes. I'll give a short introduction to our work and why I believe it is important, show you a video that will give you a sense of what our volunteer days look like, and then turn it over to my colleague Bobby Kirby, who will talk about safety on our work sites. GRID was launched in 2004 with the mission to make renewable energy technology and job training accessible to underserved communities. At the time, our co-founders Erica Mackey and Tim Sears were both engineering professionals working on large-scale renewable energy projects in the Bay Area. While they were working on these projects, they realized that those who could benefit the most from solar had the least access to it. Through GRID, they developed a model to bring solar access to low-income families, who are disproportionately impacted by pollution and climate change, and who are most in need for the savings and jobs that solar can bring. Today, Grid Alternatives is the largest nonprofit solar installer in the country. We operate 11 regional offices that serve 9 states, including California, Colorado, the New York tri-state region, and the Mid-Atlantic, as well as tribal communities nationwide. Grid Alternatives also runs an international program which provides off-grid solar to communities in rural Nicaragua. So let's take a closer look at why solar is needed and how Grid is able to make a difference. The most immediate issue we are trying to solve is severe energy burden. Energy burden is defined as the percentage of net household income used to pay for utilities. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, utility burden on the poor is more than 4 times the average 4% that others pay. And according to the Colorado Energy Office, 30% of Coloradans are considered energy burdened and 11% are considered energy impoverished, which means that there are roughly 580,000 Coloradans who have to spend over 10% of their annual income just to heat and electrify their homes each year. When I speak with our partner nonprofits and government agencies across the state, there is no shortage of the stories they share of families being evicted from their homes or foreclosed on because of utility shutoffs. And to drive this point home, research recently published by the University of Denver Health Science Center found that the inability to pay for home energy is the second leading cause of homelessness and malnutrition for families with children. GRID is solving this problem by leveling the playing field for energy burdened families. With each family we serve, we're able to save them between 50 and 100% on their annual electricity bill, which typically makes up about 60% of a family's total utility costs. Solar is also needed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and other pollutants, which disproportionately affect those living in low-income communities. Last year, the UN released a report saying that the gathering risks of climate change are so profound that they could stall or even reverse generations of progress against poverty and hunger. And these reversals of decades of progress will be acute here in the U.S., where research has shown that low-income populations suffer the greatest ill effects from climate change, have the highest vulnerability to extreme weather events, and are often subject to the worst environmental conditions, like unequal exposure to hazardous particles in the air, resulting in higher levels of incidence of cardiovascular and lung disease. GRID is solving this problem not only by installing solar, but by showing that it is a mainstream solution that can benefit all communities. Last but not least of our 3 impact areas is employment. Grid Alternatives is focused on connecting communities that need good jobs with an industry that needs good people. The solar industry is booming right now, and recent reports show that the industry has been adding jobs at a rate that is 20% faster than the economy as a whole. While 60% of these job openings are in installation and don't require a college degree, over 80% of employers have reported difficulties in finding qualified candidates. And the main barrier to hiring that employers cite is a lack of hands-on professional experience, which poses a catch-22, where you can't get a job without experience and you can't get experience without a job. GRID is solving this problem on every one of our installations by providing trainees with the hands-on job training experience they need to sit for the industry's national certification exam and to successfully start a career in the solar industry. So what have we accomplished so far? To date, we have trained and led over 22,000 individuals to install solar systems that are bringing close to 6,000 low-income families over $140 million in long-term savings. We have prevented the emissions of over 450,000 tons of greenhouse gases, which are the equivalent of planting 9.5 million tree seedlings and growing them for 10 years. GRID has 3 methods of delivering solar through what we call our Solar Affordable Housing Program: residential rooftop, community solar gardens, and multifamily rooftop. The first method is by partnering with affordable homeownership programs and organizations such as Habitat for Humanity and NeighborWorks America. We work with these organizations to identify families who qualify at or below 80% area median income and who own their own home. Once a potential client expresses interest, our construction team then completes a site visit to make sure the roof is suitable for solar generation. If the roof is suitable, our outreach staff looks at their previous year's utility bill, provides energy efficiency education, and makes sure the family has been weatherized before we install their system. This allows us to design and install a system that is specifically sized to each family's needs and maximizes the use of our resources. The second way we expand solar access is through community solar gardens. Participants get the financial savings and clean energy from the sun as if the solar system was on their roof, but their solar panels are located off-site in a larger community solar garden in an area that's ideally suited for solar energy. This program is great because it allows us to serve an even lower income population, who are renters or who don't own a home that is suitable for solar generation. The third method we have for installing solar is through our multifamily program, where we work with housing authorities and nonprofit affordable housing developers to install commercial-sized systems that bring the benefits of solar to their tenants. This program is being run in partnership with the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Energy to realize President Obama's goal to install 300 megawatts of solar on affordable housing by 2020. So now that you know a little bit more about why we are so passionate about the work that we do here at Grid, here's a video that will show you what it's like to be on an installation with us and what this work means to the folks that we serve from their perspectives.
Okay, there's my initial crew. I want you to start getting these guys harnessed up.
Once you get to the site and you meet everybody, it's exciting. I like to geek out about solar stuff, so it's fun to learn about the technology.
My name is Esperanza. This is my first time volunteering.
I think what Grid Alternatives does is amazing. It makes clean power accessible to people who really need it most.
I came from Eritrea to Sudan, from Sudan to United States. Me and my husband, when we divorced, my children is with me. It's very, very hard. I can't believe it, like it's miracle, like smart, you know. They just take the sun and they can buy light, it saves energy. It's very big help for us. I will say thank you for everything always.
I was looking towards the solar industry. I was hitting and missing, finding different opportunities that wasn't really panning out. It was really frustrating to go in and think you're going to get a job and they say, no, you're not qualified. It was hard. When I went to Grid, I was getting the experience to learn. So now when I do approach an employer, I can say I do have knowledge and skills. I grew up in a low-income community. I actually did an install that was a few blocks from where I grew up. Now that I'm in the industry, I can help my community more.
Grid is a transformational organization. It's the training ground for the solar industry. What they're doing is something that needs to be replicated in all 50 states.
Today, Saba cooked us a beautiful lunch. We got to sit down. I got to learn that Saba is a single mother of 3 from Eritrea. She is also working as a nanny, and she's built her way up to be the woman that she is.
I'm extremely happy about my solar. What can I say? It's very, very, very happy.
Everyone here has different backgrounds. Everyone here has different experiences, and together, we're building a sense of community.
3, 2, 1.
Grid's goal is to make every installation accident-free. We're all, staff, team leaders, and volunteers, responsible for accomplishing this shared goal. There are a few key takeaways which we would like to impress upon you through this portion of the orientation. 1. Do not rush. Safety over speed at all times. 2. Respect the authority of the solar installation supervisor and team leaders. They are trained professionals and here to share their knowledge and experience with you. 3. Communicate with the whole team throughout the install. A simple shout of "headache" can save a ground team member loads of medical issues. It is absolutely imperative to arrive on the Grid worksite prior to the OSHA mandatory safety huddle, which will typically occur right around 8:30 a.m. It is important to note that your install may have a different timeline than what you see on screen right now. A Grid staff member or your corporate staff liaison will provide you a detailed logistics sheet prior to the install. When you arrive on site, you should catch your first glimpse of Grid's blue and orange army. Don't worry, we aren't a violent group, but rather we're folks here to help guide you through a fun, safe, and productive workday. Grid staff wears blues during each install and are the ultimate authority on site. Most of us are CPR certified as well. Orange shirts belong to our team leaders. They're Grid volunteers who've logged in over 70 install hours each. Team leaders are additional instructors in the field. So now you've seen what Grid staff and team leaders will be wearing on site. Let's discuss volunteer attire. Volunteers are to wear long pants, a long sleeve shirt, and tennis shoes. Bring a refillable bottle for water and your favorite type of sunscreen. Grid will also have sunscreen on site ready for you, and we'll even provide a white Grid volunteer t-shirt. Also provided to you on site will be all necessary personal protective equipment, or PPE. Hard hats are the first thing you put on and the last thing you take off after the install. Make sure you're wearing safety-rated glasses and gloves whenever a power tool is in use. We will also have ear protection and all necessary fall protection for the roof team. A detailed fall protection training will be given to you during the morning safety huddle. Another form of PPE is sunscreen and water. Dehydration and sunburn are the most common on-site accidents. Grid staff will prep the site before you arrive, but it's important to note a few things about ladder safety. Ladders are set at a 4 foot up to 1 foot out ratio and are secured to the roof by Grid staff prior to your arrival on site. While climbing the ladder, make sure to always keep 3 points of contacts. That is 2 feet in one hand, 2 hands, 1 foot at all times while you're climbing. Never stop or step on a rung above the roof, and remain on the ladder until you are clipped into our fall protection. When you get safely on the roof, remember to be clipped into fall protection prior to stepping off of the ladder. There are a few safety precautions to keep in mind. 1. If anything drops from your hand or from a toolbox, do not chase it. Simply let it fall and shout, "Headache." 2. Never walk backwards while on the roof, and stay at least 2 feet from its edges. 3. Do not stand or sit on the roof ridge, as it is the roof's weakest point. 4. While walking on a roof, pick up your feet, tread lightly, and do not pivot. Shingles serve as the first line of defense against water damage. Be aware of the tools that you may be using while on site. Grid installs utilize various power tools such as bandsaws, sawzalls, drills, and impact drivers, as well as handheld tools like reamers, hammers, and conduit benders. Wait for a solar installation supervisor's approval before using any power tools or touching any wires. On Grid installs, we treat every wire as live or hot, and therefore we ask all volunteers to be extremely cautious near any exposed wires. No volunteers are to be closer than 4 feet from the main service panel. When in doubt, ask a blue shirt. At Grid, our culture is one of safety. We know that you'll enjoy your install if we all remain aware of on-site hazards, we pick up after ourselves, and remain in communication throughout the whole workday. Grid invites you to share your experience with family and friends. Follow us on social media, and tell others about the great work that you're helping Grid accomplish. Thank you for your support and for volunteering with Grid. We welcome you to the ever-growing Grid family of volunteers and solar advocates. Now that you've completed this orientation, please don't forget the final requirement of completing the volunteer quiz found directly below this video. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you out on site.